From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 195. It's made possible this week by Pingdom, Skillshare, and Smile. I'm your host, Stephen Hackett. I'm back this week from jacket shopping, and I'm joined, as usual, by my two co-hosts. Hailing from London, England, we have Mike Hurley.
Did you get a good jacket?
I did.
Good.
It's good. I wasn't actually jacket shopping, but it's fine. And we also have Federico Vitici. Hello, Federico.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's a big show this week. WWDC starts in just a few days. We're going to get to that. Next, I say a little housekeeping right off the top. Next week's episode will be live at the Hammer Theater in San Jose, California for our lovely ticket holders. That episode will be out in the Connected feed early Thursday Pacific time. So that's the goal. So it won't be out Wednesday. It'll be out early Thursday. And it will have the Connected segment and then the other stuff we're doing in the live show. So be sure to check that out. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Can I make my special request now, considering we're talking about the live show?
Sure.
I have a special request I would like to make to the audience, to people coming to the live show. This is a really big deal for us because we've worked really hard. Steven's worked really hard on getting everything together, and we're very excited about it. And I want to ask of the people coming to see our show, I want to ask for something from you. It is to help me live out a dream. I want to feel like a rock star. I think we've all had this in our lives, right? Surely at some point in our lives, we've always wanted to feel like a rock star.
I used to be one.
Federico used to be one, so he doesn't need it. Only I need this. You can do this for me. I just need your energy. Like, when we're coming onto the stage, like when everyone's coming out onto the stage, you know, we're doing it in a couple of groups, 2 segments. So when we come out, just give me your energy. I want to feel it. I want just that feeling. I've never been in front of an audience this size before. Please, just the energy is what I want. So I ask that of you. I know that I really don't want to have to do that thing where I'm like, I can't hear you. Like, I don't want to do that, right?
Please
so,
clap.
Please clap. Just give me the energy. It's all I ask of you, and then you will all be my best friends forever. Thank you.
You can throw pieces of clothing. You can throw flowers on stage.
No throwing. Just noise. Noise is all I want. Just noise.
Well, okay.
We'd like to use this venue again. Please don't take your clothes off.
Yes. Keep your clothes on.
So what you're asking for is basically like a standing ovation. Like, you want to be praised from like the deepest parts of our audience's hearts.
They can stay seated, but aside from that, yes. Everything you just said.
Can it be like one of those motivational events where people go and they yell and they clap and they follow like this teacher on stage? Can you be that kind of teacher?
Well, you're the teacher.
The teacher.
Teacher teaches.
I think you're thinking of faith healing. That's a different...
No, so I don't want to go that far. We don't need to go that far.
We're not doing that.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. So I will say as well, if you can't make it to the show, but you see us around, if you're in San Jose, if you're there at WWDC, come say hey. We love hanging out and meeting people. We may have goodies on us. If you have a Connected t-shirt, I believe that it was promised that Federico would give you a high five.
Yes.
So lots of exciting stuff. It's a very fun week for all of us. But there's follow-up to be done because we have to do follow-up.
We cannot eschew from tradition.
No, can't. Not even on Christmas Eve, WWDC Eve.
WWDC
Eve.
WWDC.
That's a different thing.
WWDC. It's some kind of like conference for liars. The worldwide deceiving conference.
The WWDC.
Wow. Maybe that's what happened to Airplay 2. You know, it came out at WWDC.
We're all deceived.
So, where do we start in follow-up? We're going to start with this iPhone case thing?
You got the case. Was this 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks ago we spoke about that Indiegogo for the Spigen
yes.
iMac G3 iPhone case, and you got yours and immediately made a YouTube video about it because obviously, why wouldn't you? Right? Like, that makes a lot of sense.
Because I'm a YouTuber now.
Smash that like button when you go to Steven's page. Smash it.
Please.
Like, destroy the like button.
Subscribe.
and subscribe,
hit the bell.
but also the like button and bell him. And it was you ended up actually liking the case more than I expected you would. I thought when you posted that video, it was just going to be like you were just going to be really upset and down about it, but you ended up not being, to the extent, even though like, I watched the video, and even watching the video, I was like, he clearly doesn't like this. Like, but it ended up that you did, and I was quite surprised about that.
Yeah, I think where I come down is that I like it as an object, but I don't want to use it as an iPhone case because it's kind of thick and like it's real.
Huge.
It is crazy slippery. Like it is. There's no grip or texture to this thing at all.
See, I think that for me, like in watching it, I don't understand why they did it the way that they did it. Like with it being that, I had no idea that thing inside was rubber, like a rubber case, which looks like a motherboard, basically, right? It looks like internals. Then you put this like clear translucent plastic on it. Like, I think I would personally like it if they just made a rubber case that had like a translucent layer on top, and that you could like, so it was way thinner, but it was all rubber, like silicone. That's what I would like. I think having this like huge 3-piece thing, it's too big. It's too big.
Yeah, it's bulky, and like there's an air gap in there, so like you get a little piece of dust in between the rubbery part and then the plastic. Then you got like debris in there.
And also, I know I would be taking that off all the time.
So yeah, I mean, if it's something that you're interested in, like it's a good case, it's well made. I have no doubt that it offers a lot of protection, but it's not quite for me. But it is beautiful. I'm keeping it because I think it'll be fun to have it on for special events.
This is like a Halloween costume for your phone. It's not a case. It's like a whole thing that you put on. Looks nice, but it's too much.
It's iPhone cosplay, sort of. You know?
Yeah, kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works. Things 3.6, because now we talk about every version of Things, has a whole host of external keyboard shortcuts for the iPad. I watched this video they did and read through the Mac Stories article. I mean, you can do, like, is there anything you can't do with the keyboard, Federico? It seems like everything is wired into a shortcut now.
There's a couple of things. One of them, I think it's some kind of system limitation. So you cannot change dates and times from the native iOS date picker, you know, the little scrolling wheel.
Yeah.
That's not keyboard controllable. And the other is that if you have a task with a note and the note contains a link, there's no way with the keyboard to say open this link in Safari. So you need to tap the link with your finger. There should be like an open link command, honestly. But those are the only two things that I couldn't activate with the keyboard. It's really impressive what they've been able to do. It's not just, as I argued in the story, it's not just the keyboard shortcuts, because a bunch of apps have them. And if you look at apps like Drafts, for example, or the new OmniFocus 3, which also came out today, they probably have more in terms of like sheer numbers, that there are more shortcuts. But it's the idea of letting you select, for example, multiple items, letting you move selections around, and also the fact that every menu, every button, every option you can select with the keyboard. So it's kind of like the Apple TV focus engine, where you can highlight even though you don't have a mouse with the cursor. It's a similar idea, right? That even though you're not touching the screen, you can still highlight, you can make selections, and you can do stuff with them. And there's also the feature called Type Travel, which allows you to just type. It's literally like you open the app, and any screen you can press down on any key in the keyboard, and it starts searching without having to activate like a special search mode beforehand. And you can just travel to what you're looking for. So you can open a project or a task, or you can open an area, for example. It's really well done, and I would love to see Apple doing more of this. I was talking to a few people on Twitter. For example, Apple Notes, it allows you to navigate around with the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
You can move between folders and notes, but it's not the same kind of deep keyboard control that we're seeing in Things, for example. I would love to have this kind of concept in system features like multitasking, or bring in an app from Spotlight into Slide Over.
Let's not talk too much about things we might like to see. Let's Let's hold those back for a little bit later on in the episode, maybe, in case you're potentially ruining someone's picks.
Okay.
like Mike's, it seems like.
I mean, you're free to use it. I have a whole list
but it's not
of
just
things.
about you. You know, we can maybe potentially get to that very, very specific thing later on.
Maybe this is a tactic that I'm using. I don't know. You will never know. You will never know.
All my ideas out. I'm almost annoyed by how good a Type Travel is. Like, that is very good naming. I like that a lot. Man, things breaking my heart. Just breaking my heart. Every day I look at it and I'm like, oh, look at all the fun stuff you're doing. I don't know.
So you're still using Todoist?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm still using Todoist. I don't remember the exact reasons, but there are reasons, but I don't remember what they were. Because after the last time we spoke about it, I did give it a more of a try, and there was still a few things where it just wasn't working for me. I think it was stuff around like reminders and also Steven's problem, right? Of like repeating tasks, doing them early, like stuff like that. I realized it was just going to be too much of a struggle for me to try and bend it to my system. But it does. I'm keeping my eye on things, right? Like I'm keeping my eye on it. I'm seeing what they're doing, and there is a potential future for me in things, I think. Who knows? Should we take our first break?
Let's do it.
All right, today's show is brought to you in part by our friends at Pingdom, the company who offer uptime monitoring and web performance management. You're more familiar with Pingdom than you may already know because they're helping to keep some of your favorite sites accessible and online. Companies like Evernote, BuzzFeed, Netflix, and Imgur, all of these sites, they use Pingdom to make sure that they're keeping everything running nice and smoothly. Websites are so sophisticated now and have so many different moving parts. There are maybe contact forms or e-commerce checkouts or logins or search functions. It's not a case of whether your website just goes down anymore. Any of these things can break and you wouldn't even know about it, and it's going to cause problems for people trying to come to your site. So you want Pingdom to be able to check all of that stuff for you. They'll make sure that all of these interactions are working properly, and if there's any problem, they're going to let you know before anybody else will. All Pingdom needs is the URL that you want to monitor, and they'll take care of the rest. It is so easy to get started. Just go to pingdom.com/relayfm right now, and you'll get yourself a 14-day free trial with no credit card required, so you can see just how simple Pingdom is to use. Then when you sign up, use the code CONNECTED at checkout to get yourself a huge 30% off your first invoice. Our thanks to Pingdom for their support of this show and Relay FM. So before we get started on our WWDC Happy-o-meter, there was some iOS updates this week. iOS 11.4 has snuck in just under the wire with AirPlay 2 and iCloud messages, or messages in the cloud, has just come out. Now, Federico, as the individual amongst us with more than one AirPlay 2 speaker, what are your impressions of using two HomePods with iOS 11.4?
So I only played with it for like 15 minutes because it was late yesterday, and then today I just came back home to do this show. From my initial tests, it's really well done. So I tried with Siri, and I asked on my... So I updated them both. I did not create a stereo pair because I'm not sure that I want to... because they're not located in the same room, and I'm not sure I want to do that.
Yeah, I feel like the stereo pair stuff works if they're in the same room. Otherwise, you're not going to get all the music clearly, right? Like if you have them in other parts of your house, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So what I did is I asked Siri to put the music, the song that I was listening to on the other device, and to just control music playback and change settings like volume. And it all worked very nicely. It was fast. For example, when I was listening to a song in the kitchen and I said, put this on in the bedroom too, and it took like a couple of seconds to not only to put the song on the other HomePod, but also to jump ahead in the current position, so to put them in sync, right? Because of course you don't want to have a song like 30 seconds in and the other just starts.
So you hear it and then it starts playing, then it jumps ahead.
No, it doesn't. You don't hear the jumping ahead. That's what I was saying. It takes a couple of seconds to say okay, and then you can hear the song with the correct position in the other room. So it's all invisible, but those couple of seconds, I understand why it takes a little longer than maybe, just like 1 second. What else? I tried to change the volume. So doing things like I was listening to the same song on 2 HomePods, and I said, put the bedroom at 40%. And it changed from my kitchen. And so the kitchen HomePod took the command and changed the volume of the other HomePod in the other room. It basically did everything I asked for on first try. Without any weirdness that is usually involved with Siri. And it was fast, it was stable. Sylvia approved, so it's not too technical. Everybody can use these commands. And I also saw the control center integration. Now you have like the drop down menu, and you can basically you can use these check boxes to select multiple sources at the same time.
Yeah, that looks cool. I like that UI. Like it finally makes more sense why they made the UI the way that they did.
It does make some sense. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about it. If anything, it worked really well. I'm considering the idea of a third HomePod.
There he is. Of course he is.
So I'm not saying that I'm gonna leave a corner in my bag when I'm coming to WWDC just for a HomePod.
But if somehow a corner in the bag is left, I mean, I had nothing to do with it. But
exactly. If things move around during the flight in the bag, it's not my fault. So yeah, it works really nicely.
Also, Messages in the Cloud is now available. It is really interesting to me that you have to manually turn it on, and you don't even get told about it when you update. There's no splash screen, nothing. You have to go into iCloud in that really bad UI of the menu, right? Where the way you get into iCloud is by tapping your own name, that's so confusing. I don't know why they did that. You know what I mean? At the top of iOS settings.
Yeah.
It's such a strange thing. And then you have to just turn on Messages. That's it. And that's how you turn it on. My assumption is they don't want everybody using this yet. Like they're kind of expecting people that know about it will use it now. But they've obviously had problems with this. I think they're still kind of scaling it up by not turning it on for people and not telling people about it. So they'll only get a percentage of their user base turning it on rather than everybody. That's my assumption, because it is weirdly hidden and not even made reference to. My messages are still uploading and downloading. I have no idea how long this is going to take. I don't know what's going on, but it's currently moved something like 17 gigabytes or something. I have lots. I don't delete messages really.
Yeah.
And I would say that currently, my devices are more out of sync with each other than they ever have been, which is fun. It's just they're coming in slowly, right? So messages are coming in on my iPad, but my iPhone's not seeing them yet. And it seems like it's taking a little bit longer for that to fix itself. I'm going to say that's fine because something's going on, right? There's all this stuff is happening. So I'm going to wait until all of my messages have been uploaded and downloaded, until those progress bars stop showing up before I pass any judgment. Because I do have multiple gigabytes of messages, and it's all flying around all over the place. So I'm just going to kind of wait. It also isn't on the Mac yet, which is kind of funny to me as of this recording.
Yeah, there's no macOS update. Mine synced overnight. It tells you, hey, be sure to plug in the phone, plug in the iPad. I've got 22 gigs of messages now synced to my iCloud account. And I mean, so far, I don't think I've used my iPad enough today to be able to tell you definitively, oh, things seem faster, things seem better. But at least for me, the syncing situation seemed to go pretty smoothly. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. If it really means things will stay in sync, if it will get rid of the deal where, Myke, you tweeted the other day that you opened up your MacBook Pro for the first time in months, and it took 25 minutes for messages to come in. That is still probably going to be the case, but hopefully they've made these apps smarter. We don't get a notification for every single one of those, right? That if it knows it's been read somewhere else because it's syncing now, it just sort of silently files them in, and then you open messages and they're all there. So I am hoping that this is a step forward for messages. I think we've all been frustrated at times when things fall out of sync because you saw something, but it's not on the device you're on and you can't make it show up. Like we've all been there. And so I'm hopeful that this works.
Yeah, I did have a thing yesterday where some messages, I had like 5 messages in a conversation on my Mac, and 3 of those messages are just not on any of my iOS devices. Again,
it's fine.
I am just waiting until it's done, right? Because 2 of my devices, I think, are still uploading and downloading. So, like, I'm just going to wait for that to all be finished, and then I'll pass my judgment. Obviously, it's taking some time for me. I don't know why, but it just is taking some time. It didn't finish it overnight. It's still doing whatever it is it's doing. Also, the WWDC app was updated, as you would expect. I mean, there isn't really anything crazy of note here. The icon design is wonderful. I love it. It looks great. Yeah. It's kind of borrowing, obviously is in line with the WWDC kind of artwork that we've seen so far. Lots of shadows and lots of 3D and stuff like that.
Some people get really upset if you say things like, I really like this 3D effect, because if you liked the flat design, some people think that you're not allowed to also like 3D. Some people on Twitter get really upset by this. It's like, oh, you liked iOS 7, now you cannot also like this. It's a betrayal of thought. So,
well, I do, and I don't care what anybody says. They've got lots of cute session template names right now, as you would expect. Lots in different languages this time. I don't know if that means we're going to have loads of localization sessions, or they're just being kind of extra cutesy, right, by putting them in other languages. I have no idea. And the ADAs are back. They're not being held in a secret room in the background anymore.
It was like an alley out back last year, I think.
That is literally what happened last year. So there will be a ceremony. I think it's on Monday or after the State of the Union, which is too bad because there's we're going to the ATP folks, I think. So, but it's good that there's an event again. It feels more official, and they are giving awards to iOS, macOS, TV, all the platforms, tvOS, watchOS. I mean, I really want to see who wins the tvOS Apple Design Award.
Netflix. Amazon. Amazon win it. Or YouTube. I reckon it's going to be YouTube. Everyone loves that YouTube app, right? It's a great app.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do. So
I do. I actually do.
You think it's fine?
Well, I think it's better than what there was previously. That's how I feel about the situation.
Okay. Well, so yeah, there's an event, and we will celebrate the winners as usual.
And commiserate with the losers, too.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a break in a moment, but before we do, let me set up our WWDC Happy-o-meter. Now, we just did this last year kind of randomly, where we basically, instead of picking what we think was going to happen, we want to talk about things that we would love to happen. Some things, maybe some small, some big, that if Apple announced them in the keynote next week, we will all be really happy. That's the idea. I mean, you can hear predictions everywhere, but we just want to talk about the things that would make us the happiest. Last year was, I think Federico was the most happy, I was the middle most happy, and Stephen was the least happy. However, after all of the teasing about a deeper and more open iMessage framework, I think Federico came away the least happy, but that's a matter for another time. So basically the way that it works is we all should be picking things, and I think we all have, that is not necessarily what we think is going to happen. These are not our predictions. These are things that will make us happy. But this time we are going to grade it on the Tichy scale. So our live show, we're going to be talking about who was the happiest. So this time, and then we can all be happy with each other. You know, if Stephen, quote unquote, wins, he'll be the happiest and we'll be happy for him, right? This isn't a strict competition as such. At least that's not how I'm playing it. Maybe my 2 co-hosts are going to try and smash me to pieces. But we're going to be grading it on the Tichy scale, going from Nightmare all the way up to Best I Love You. And the person closest to Best I Love You will win. I don't expect anyone is going to get Best I Love You, which I think is probably going to be a clean sweep, maybe. But I don't think anyone's going to get there. But we're going to see who's going to get closest, and that person will be deemed the happiest person at WWDC.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Man, look, you are taking two very complex scientific scales, the Happy-o-meter and the TG scale, and we're putting them together. And look, science and mathematics, they're not absolutes, right? It's messy. There's edge cases, and there's things we don't understand. There's quantum physics involved. It's a very complicated system we're building here.
It's very, very complicated, but very, very amazing. I am going to put in the show notes something that I think is a little bit of work in progress right now, but I reckon will be completed by the episode next week. The wonderful Rosemary Orchard, who's a fantastic connected listener who's in our live chat room right now, is building an interactive Happy-o-meter scale, so you can go along and pick with us and you all be scored. It's going to be kind of incredible. So I'm going to put that in our show notes, so you can go along and you can score it all out yourself. Stephen, are you going to make a PDF version, maybe?
Yes, there'll be a PDF in the show notes for this episode of our choices, so you can have that and be prepared.
That's all there. It's all going to be there for you, so you can follow along with us. There's lots and lots of things that you can grade, and you'll be able to work out if we're happy. I'm expecting that the Happy-o-meter is not something you're going to need to worry about grading live. I think you might be upset, like overall, if you're waiting for all these things to happen.
Yeah. The Happy-o-meter, what you're saying is, would make you sad in real time.
Possibly. Who knows? I mean, we have no way of knowing because nobody knows anything about WWDC, right?
It's true.
All right. We should probably get into it, but let me thank our second sponsor of this week's show before we do, and that is Skillshare, the online learning community with over 20,000 classes in technology, design, business, and more. A Skillshare premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes, leaving you free to master must-known topics. It's a great way to improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and help you do the work that you love. Maybe you want to learn a little bit about how you could be more productive. Well, they have a course called Productivity Today, which will help you manage your attention in the digital age and help you make more of your time. It's probably something we could all do with from time to time. Or what about understanding web development? They have a course all about that, so you can learn the basics of putting together your own web projects and get the skills that you need to explore a career in web development. Join the millions of students already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for connected listeners. You can get 2 months free of Skillshare for just 99 cents. Yes, that is 99 cents. Just go to Skillshare.com/connected and you can get yourself 2 months of unlimited access to over 20,000 classes for just 99 cents. That's Skillshare.com/connected. Head there now and start learning today. We thank Skillshare for their support of this show. All right, so Federico, as being the happiest person to leave WWDC last year, is going to get the first pick. Well, that you were the winner of the Happy-o-meter. Well, again, no winners. We're all winners. You were just the happiest person last year. You got the most things.
I won the happiness. That's what
you won all of the happiness, and then we were happy for you.
Yes.
We're doing 4 categories: iOS, Mac, hardware, and other. So we're picking the 2 major platforms, hardware, and then just anything else, which was the same as we did last year too.
Mm-hmm. All right, so for iOS, which I suppose will be version 12, I would love to see a complete notification overhaul. I think it's time for the iOS notification system to grow up, to get a new design, and to get more options to better organize, manage, and trim your notification list. There's a bunch of ideas that Apple could implement. For example, bring back the old grouping by app option that Myke really loved, or just give users a way to filter notifications more easily. They could implement something similar to Android, where you have notification channels, so they're like something more important goes to the top of the list and something that is less urgent stays at the bottom. Or there could also be a new design for alerts and notifications that interrupt you and that come up from the top of the screen, and suddenly you cannot tap navigation buttons in title bars anymore. So I think it's time for Apple to redo the entire notification not the framework, but the design and the notification center, whatever it's called. What's the name of the thing? The cover sheet? That. So
I haven't heard that name in nearly a year.
In a long time, yeah. So the cover sheet I think it's time to, right now, if you look at notifications, it's just an insanely long list of messages that all look the same. And I think even if Apple, this is not something that is a groundbreaking new design or like redesign home screen. No, just make notifications better because right now it's not working. So improved or actually notifications overhaul, a new design, new system.
So I had picked a variant of this, and I'm just going to throw it out there. This is not my pick, but just like to kind of build on yours. I have had this dream for the last week of a workflow for notifications. So like using everything we know that the workflow team created to kind of create this new complex system, where you can kind of use their idea of drag in and drop in to build a system of like, these applications can bug me during these hours, and these applications can use badges on Wednesdays, and like really allowing me to get deep into it if I would want to. That would be almost my dream situation at this point.
That would be amazing.
So kind of building on that a little bit, my pick is going to be, I want to know what happened to the workflow team. Why did Apple buy workflow?
That was my pick.
There you go. Maybe you got one of mine. We'll see a little later on. I want to know what happened to the workflow team. We're going to have to just decide how we know this, right? Like if we see something and we're like, oh, okay, that looks like it could have come from that team, right? This is just the thing we're going to have to decide upon together. But I want to see whether their stuff gets integrated into another application. If workflow becomes a part of the operating system in a more fundamental way, maybe we get workflow on the Mac. Like, I don't know what it is, but Apple bought that team, kept the product going for a reason, and I want to see some idea of what that reason was. Like, it would appear to me they didn't just hire the team because they're really talented. Because if they did that, they would have just been swallowed into the company and workflow would have got shut down. As many other times this type of thing has happened. But the workflow app stuck around, and I feel like there must be a reason for that. Like in the same way that like Shazam didn't get shut down, right? Because the Shazam app and that functionality can be used in other places, so they'll keep Shazam going until they replace it in the operating system. So I want to see something about what happened with the workflow team.
And to build on this, again, this is not my pick. It was going to be one, but Myke had it first. There's so much that workflow could do or could be, from HomeKit and Siri integration to an actual framework for third-party apps to communicate with each other so that developers can stop using URL schemes and have like an actual system feature for automation. There could be integration with the HomePod. You could make, custom commands for your home. There could be and of course the Mac. It could be the new Automator on the Mac. I really hope that you got this wish, Myke, because I also want to know. It affects my business because I have a section in my newsletter where I explain workflow, and I would love to know if Apple plans on keep doing workflow or not. So I'm hoping alongside you, Myke, that we will get this wish.
All right, Stephen, what's your first iOS happiness wish?
Mine is consolidation of gestures.
Oh.
So we have
fancy
competing gestures on the iPad and the iPhone.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
nice.
I see now. It's like Stephen wants one gesture for everything. Like one swipe just pulled down different ways means you get notifications. Anyway.
Yeah, one gesture to rule them all.
You have to just work out what I want.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of how it feels now. So just cleaning that up, So I think this could mean, Control Center is and multitasking, those things are just consistent, but just like spending some time in that arena, making it more fluid to move between an iPad and an iPhone, because right now they do the exact opposite things in some cases, and that's it's not a great user experience if you go back and forth a bunch. So just sort of cleaning up the gestures in iOS would make me happy.
Yeah, so in your mind, is it like changing them or just picking one and applying it everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the end of the day, if it's simpler to move between the two, then like how they get there I don't think is as important. I mean, that's like, it's happiness, Myke. It's not my exact specific pick. It's
No, I'm not trying to like catch you out. I'm just wondering, like, what in your mind, what is the best solution? Like, would you want all new gestures, or would you like them to, for example, just take the iPhone ones and apply them to the iPad?
I don't know, because I don't like Control Center on the iPhone 10, so that's what spoils that whole thing for me.
Right. So maybe like a mix of both.
Yeah. Put it all in the pot and see what comes out.
All right, Tichy, go for your second iOS pick.
All right. So there's just so many features that I would love to see, but I gotta pick one. And I'm really torn between two of them or three of them. I'm going to go with the one that I put first in my note because it feels right. I would love to see. So keeping in the theme of notification overhaul, I would love to see an improved and more customizable Do Not Disturb. I feel like, just like notifications, Do Not Disturb as just the bare minimum amount of options for users. There should be more control. There should be more ways to say, I want to get notifications from this app, but I don't want to be disturbed by this other app, or I don't want to be disturbed on these days of the week. And there could be more filters, stuff like send me notifications if I'm home, do not disturb if I'm, at the restaurant, or do not disturb if I'm at the office or whatever. Location filters could be an idea. Another could be, and you tweeted about this a few weeks ago, Myke, a setting to say if I'm, watching a video, there should be like different behaviors for notifications and do not disturb. I just think it's time to get more granular controls for do not disturb. Last year we got do not disturb while driving, which is a nice idea, but I think Gray on Cortex said it feels like a hackathon, like something
it's
put
like
together
a weekend project,
like
which
a weekend
felt
project.
so harsh.
But it kind of encapsulates do not disturb while driving. It's a nice idea, but I want to see much more. So an improved and more, if I were to sum it up, improved and more customizable do not disturb.
I feel very confident about this one.
It's good.
I think this is going to be one for sure.
So.
I feel confident about that. I feel like I'm going a little bit more out there with mine, and I think that's fine. Because I'm going to pick one now that, like, I don't think this is going to happen. Because it hasn't happened. And I don't think that this is one of those, like, the keyboard shortcuts thing. I just think Apple is never going to do this. But if they did this, my happiness level would be through the roof. I would automatically score Best I Love You if they did this.
Okay.
The ability on iOS to change default applications.
Oof.
Do you see why I feel like I would get this like automatic score? Because it feels almost impossible at this point. But just the general happiness this would bring to my everyday life would be like unsurmountable. Because there are a lot of applications that I think on iOS do a great job of trying to do this where Apple won't. Right? So like an application like Slack will let me choose to open in Chrome, or I can in Airmail I can open in Chrome, or I can use like some applications to open in Airmail and stuff like that, right? Like there are a bunch of apps that try their best to use URL schemes to do this for me, but I just want it to happen, right? Like I just want to be able to never have to open Safari if I don't want to. I want to have to never open Mail if I don't want to, or the podcast app, or whatever, right? Like, the third-party app ecosystem is so rich and is the reason, in my opinion, that the iPhone is as successful as it is, because the apps are so good. Yeah. I think it is time that Apple need to just accept the fact that they don't necessarily make either the best applications for every use or the ones people want to use the most. And I think it would make a lot of their users very happy if they could change their default applications. Do I think they're going to do it? No. But do I want it? Yes.
I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I would love to have this feature. What I think is more likely is that you're going to be able someday to change the default apps for SiriKit. So when you say things like "remind me to," I could see how Apple might say, "In Siri, you can change reminders to things or Todoist," so that you don't have to append the.
That would be like a slap in the face to me if they did that, right?
That would be decent on the TG scale at best.
Yeah.
So
We have
so
a big
I
announcement
can
today. We're going to let you change default apps
in
in Siri. It's like that. My favorite GIF, the heartbreaking GIF of Ralph Wiggum from the Simpsons. You know, like where Bart's like doing it frame by frame, so that you can see the exact moment where his heart exploded. That would be a live view of me.
Yes.
People just get up and leave the leave the
Come
room.
on! That's what you just hear from the back. That's me from my hotel room. You can hear it on the stream.
So it's my turn to round this out, and I'm surprised that this is still available because A, I think it could be likely, but B, I think it would make all three of us happy, and that is system-wide dark
Oh, I
mode.
didn't even put that on my list.
A way for iOS and third-party iOS developers to easily and then hopefully consistently enable dark modes. So I have, as everybody has, I've seen the apps that I use since the inclusion of the OLED display in the iPhone X slowly add dark themes, and most of the apps that offer them, I use them. I'm using it in Tweetbot. I'm using it in a couple other apps, and I've come to that way of life. And I would like to see that available in something like Messages or Mail, which is just blinding white light. So I think the iPhone X with the OLED display could be a win there from the looks and the energy perspective. So system-wide dark mode.
I hope that you get that because I would love that. That would make me very, very happy. We now move into the Mac, right? And we're doing this in round robin. You got lots of Mac picks over there?
Oh yeah, it just notes is full of ideas. Yeah.
So one of my picks I'm going to remove because we've kind of already spoken about it, which was workflow for Mac. But I figure that's probably in my iOS one, right? Would we count that, right? Because
yes.
Yeah, that's signs of life.
All right, then I'm gonna swing for the fences in this one. I can't believe I'm doing this. Shared app platform.
It's like nervous laughter.
We figure it's going to happen at some point. It's probably not going to be this year, but I'd really like it if it was. I feel like as an iOS first person, I would get a lot of benefit out of this because a lot of the applications that I use on my iOS devices could then, in theory, be brought to the Mac more easily. So one of two things will happen. Either A, I will have more apps available to me that I'm used to using, or B, there will be more consistency amongst the apps that I use. And for me, personally, either of those is a win. Do I think that maybe this WWDC will see us get what is being referred to as marzipan? No, I don't. But we might see the beginning of that, right? They might say, hey, we have this thing. It's more like UIKit, but for the Mac, to like more easily let iOS developers move stuff over. And again, we'll decide depending on what they announce, if they announce anything, as to whether that would count towards this. But this is something that I would really like to see because I would love to have more consistency amongst the applications that I will typically use.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great. And I think it's a win. We've talked about this. It's a win for people who aren't iOS first as well, right? There are iOS apps that I would like to have available to me on my Mac when I'm at work all day, and they're not. So I think it's a win for everyone, and it just comes down to a million questions of details. So yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, like even something like an Apple Music app, because then you wouldn't need to use iTunes anymore. Like you'd just be able to use Apple Music. Like just stuff like that is even like it's not even just to help indie developers, which whilst it would, I don't think it's even just for that. Like there would be significant benefits to this, which is why I think this idea, this marzipan rumor, really latched on with so many people.
All right. I will stay with the theme of bringing things to the Mac that are on iOS. And I'm going to say HomeKit support for the Mac. There's no Home app for the Mac. Siri for the Mac doesn't can't do anything with HomeKit stuff, which is just mind-boggling to me. And, people who have a bunch of smart home stuff or stuff in their office and they're at the computer, they should be able to execute commands on those things without having to pick up their phone or iPad. So it seems like something, especially they could slot into Siri, and you don't have to bring all the setup stuff. Like I understand that's not really doable because all these apps are iPhone only, but at least control of existing HomeKit stuff should be available when you're at a Mac.
Yeah. I agree that it would be good. I don't know if I think that it is like the route that they're going to go down, right? Like I really feel like that potentially the more kind of like party line is just get a HomePod.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? Or like just use Siri because you've always got a device around you. Just use your Apple Watch, right? Like I feel like they are the things that would be considered like the company's thinking. But I agree that that strategy maybe isn't completely perfect. That it might just be nice to be able to scroll over to Notification Center and turn on a hue light. All right, Federico, what's your first of many Mac picks?
Okay, I would love to see from Apple a recommitment to the Mac App Store.
Oh, gosh darn it.
Some kind of relaunch or redesign or, I don't know, policy changes, but a recommitment to the Mac App Store as a service, as a platform. I would love to see some developers, on stage bringing back their Mac apps to the store. And I could see just how the Mac App Store has languished for so long, and it deserves the same treatment that Apple gave to the iOS App Store last year, which means editorial curation, which means more frequent updates, means collections. It means that if you're featuring an app on the front page, it doesn't stay in the same position for like 3 months, as is the case right now, because the Mac App Store in its current state is basically abandoned. I want to see Apple say we got a lot wrong, we listened, and now we're confident that we're bringing it back in a better state. I would love to have a place where I can go and find quality stuff, because right now if you go to the Mac App Store and if you search or if you browse the top charts, it's full of these terrible web apps and wrappers around websites that install like little utilities in your menu bar that you pay $2 for. Nobody wants that. I want to see...
It is kind of funny that there's so much crap in the Mac App Store.
Yes,
like,
yes.
the best Mac apps
It's brutal.
are still downloaded from the web. That's kind of strange.
Yeah. Many of them were in the Mac App Store and then left because of this problem, which is something they've got to address.
Yeah. I should say, obviously, there are good apps in the Mac App Store. Right? I mean,
course.
every single one, but like a lot of the stuff that you will use every day is either not in the Mac App Store, or they have a non-Mac App Store version, which sometimes has more features.
And I mentioned policy changes because Apple needs to accept the fact that if they want to keep the Mac, so powerful and extensible and versatile, they need to give some, there's some concessions to be made to developers in terms of stuff like sandboxing, for example. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have the best and the most powerful applications on the Mac App Store, you need to put developers in the position of making those apps for the Mac App Store, which means... I don't know if relaxing restrictions is the correct phrase and concept, but find a way through either new APIs or, I don't know, some other technology to allow folks to, to stuff like utilities that access the file system. They should be able to make those for the Mac App Store. So I really, even though I don't use the Mac, I think it's the right thing to do for developers and for users and really for everybody to have a better Mac App Store.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm really swinging for the fences with my Mac picks today. My second pick is going to be an indication of an ARM transition. I also think it's too early. Frankly, I don't have many things that I can think of for the Mac. So this one would make me happy because it's interesting and exciting to see something like this, and could do some really fun and weird and cool things with the Mac, including like helping to enable my first pick of a shared app platform. Like that could be a big help to it if the processor changed, like if the architecture changes. So, could maybe one day give life to a dual boot OS system, which I don't think they'll ever do, but I would really like it if they did, right? Like a touchscreen MacBook, which could be iOS when in a tablet mode and macOS in a keyboard mode. I would really, really like that product. Like that would be very useful to me. So all of that, I think anything like that, any potential future like that, would start with an ARM transition. So it would make me happy to see it because of some of the possibilities that could be seen, some of the possibilities that could be realized post transitioning over to ARM.
You saying you want them to start it, or you just want there to be sort of like tea leaf style stuff? Would you be happy with just that?
Yeah, I think, how sometimes you see these things and it makes it seem like something's coming, right? Like yeah, like if we can all look at a thing and collectively people agree it probably means this, then I'm happy with that, right? And again, like this is one of those things that we might not see this on stage. This might come out in the days past, right? And then we can, then we'll know later on. They might be like in the State of the Union, they talk about this thing and it's like, oh, I see what this is, right? And then we can maybe see something. But more than anything, right, I would love it if they just got on stage. It's like, oh, by the way, we're doing this. It's going to take 2.5 years to implement it, and we're starting that transition today. We recommend you all start learning Swift because that's all you'll be able to use, or something, right? Like, whatever. They probably won't do that, but you never know, right? Eventually, whenever they do this, there is going to have to be a time period. And they're probably going to start it small, right? Because they can't say, and they won't, right? We're only doing ARM Macs going forward because then nobody buys Macs for 2 years or whatever. There's going to be some stuff's going to happen, and it's going to have to be slow. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but it could. I don't think it will, but it could. And because if it doesn't happen this year, maybe it will happen next year, but it's still going to take multiple years to implement anyway. So I think at this point, it feels pretty likely. So whenever it happens, it happens. And if it happened this year, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I've thought it's a topic for another day, but I've thought a lot about the timing of that transition. The Intel transition took less than a year, or about a year, but they had processors that were faster than what they were using, and Apple does not have that as far as we know for Intel to ARM. So, I mean, I think that's why people say it's got to take time, because they can't replace the iMac Pro on my desk with an ARM machine that's as fast, again, as far as we know. And it's an interesting topic. But yeah, I think it would be, I agree with you, I think it's too early, but it may be that we start to see things that, that are sort of like paving the way down that trail a little bit. So I'm up next, and Mac App Store was high on my list. ARM, I have to say the ARM transition was not. But I'm going to go with improvements to the core apps. And so the apps that ship with macOS, things like Mail and Messages and Calendar, these sort of core system apps, a lot of them feel very stagnant. And it's not that they haven't been getting updates, but they haven't gotten any new major features in a long time. And especially Mail really feels so far behind what every other third-party mail app on the Mac can do. It really feels basic compared to those things. And I think it's time that Apple look at what's popular out there, and people want things like Actions. They want things like snoozing. They want things that Mail doesn't offer. I think even more so on iOS and the Mac, but I think on the Mac it's just as important. So spending some time in those core apps that build the backbone of what the Mac experience is, because those apps get a lot of use, and they're the defaults, and they're on the dock when you start up a new Mac, and I think they need to spend some time there.
So we're talking some significant improvements, right, is what you're looking for. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense. All right, Teachy, do you have a second Mac pick?
Yes, and I am shocked. I am shocked that nobody picked this.
Okay.
I would love to see, honestly, a dedicated Apple Music app for the Mac. I think it's insane that Apple Music is still tied to iTunes, that does a bunch of things, has a store in it. I just feel like it's time for Apple to make a standalone Apple Music app for the Mac that takes basically everything you know from the iPad and iPhone version and brings it to the Mac, where it's just, streaming, and it's got curation, it's got Beats One, it's got radio stations. I just think it's time to have a music experience that is free from iTunes and that allows you to open it up and listen in 5 seconds instead of waiting for iTunes to spin up and load whatever view it wants to load. So it's one of the few things that I do when I sit down before I do a show at my MacBook. I open iTunes and I want to put like a couple of songs on before the show. And every time I open iTunes, it's so slow and it navigates to the iTunes store. And sometimes you search for something, but it doesn't search for it in Apple Music and search for it in the iTunes Music Store, which is insane.
I hate that so much.
I just
who wants that? Like, if I'm an Apple Music customer, why do I ever want to search the iTunes Music Store? Why do I want to do that?
So I don't know how Apple could reconcile the local music library thing. I don't know. I just want to have an app that is called Music and that allows me to click on an icon and open Apple Music. So a music app that is not iTunes. That's something that will make me really happy on the Mac.
This will probably make people mad, but like my feeling is, if you want to deal with local music, keep using iTunes. If you want to deal with streaming music, use Apple Music. And I figure it's just that. Right, and iTunes will stick around for people that want to do the local music thing, and that's totally cool. Like, you do you. But if you want to just use the streaming stuff, here's Apple Music, and you can just use Apple Music, and you're fine. Yeah. I think that would work great. All right, so we still have hardware and other, and then we want to just throw out some picks that we didn't get to mention, which won't be scored. But before we do that, let me thank our final sponsor for this week, and that is Smile. I want to tell you about PDF Pen 10, the ultimate tool for editing PDFs and going paperless. If you use PDFs in any way, you need to see what PDF Pen 10 can do for you. There's so many new amazing features. You can add custom headers and footers to PDFs. They have a new precision editing tool to allow you to very finely edit things. You can magnify library items, take advantage of an improved color palette. The list goes on and on. There is so much amazing stuff going on in the new PDF Pen 10. You can go paperless more easily by making a whole collection of scanned PDF searchables. You could take a bunch of PDFs, turn them into a collection and save them, and then if you need to find something in them later on, you can search a term and it will search every PDF in that collection. That is incredibly powerful stuff, which can really help you reduce the amount of single PDFs that you have sitting in folders in Dropbox or whatever. Smile also offers PDF Pen for iPad and iPhone for editing PDFs when you're on the go. I use these all the time. I use PDF Pen 10 on my Mac. I use PDF Pen on my iPad. I absolutely love these applications. I love using my Apple Pencil with PDF Pen on my iPad. And then when I'm on my Mac, I use my Wacom tablet. I like to sign things like a real sign in person. It's really cool. I really love PDF Pen. It helps me get my work done every single day. I deal with so many contracts and stuff. I would lose my mind, I think, if I had to try and use Preview or something for this stuff. I think I would have had to quit everything a long time before now. If you've been thinking about getting your documents in order, this is your cue to get started. Learn more right now about PDF Pen by going to smilesoftware.com/podcast. And if they ask, tell them you heard about them on Connected. That's smilesoftware.com/podcast to find out more about PDF Pen 10. Our thanks to Smile for their support of this show. All right, so we move into hardware, and Stephen, you're up first for hardware as we're observing the round robin.
The nested round robin. I don't know what that means. Double layer round robin. Hardware. So I'm gonna pick the obvious one if you're a Mac fan, and that is more reliable MacBook Pros. So a MacBook Pro that keyboards cannot be felled by a tiny speck of dust. I'm very curious if this is a thing, or when it is a thing, because I believe it is happening at some point. How Apple handles that? Is it hey, it's an improved third generation butterfly keyboard, and that's it. That's all we get, and then just over time, it comes out that it's more reliable. So I think it's clearly an issue with the MacBook Pros that people are unhappy with. Developers use MacBook Pros. They have a good audience there of people who are pretty unhappy with their notebooks, and I think it'd be a big win for Apple and for the people in the audience, and that's an important factor here of who you're speaking to. So I'm going to say MacBook Pros with a improved keyboard.
I don't know, man. I don't know if you're going to get that keyboard yet. It would be great, right? It would be really good. I think there might be an update to the MacBook Pro. I don't know if it's going to be a keyboard update, but I do hope so because I know how happy it would make people, including you. All right, Federico, what hardware do you want?
So I'm probably never going to get this, but I really want it, and I'm going to see it. I want a new Mac Mini.
Heyo.
Because I need to buy one. Because
I did not think you were going to go there. So just so I can double check this real quickly, considering you picked this first. A new Mac Mini would make you happier than a new iPad Pro?
A new iPad Pro would make me happy, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want a Mac Mini because I really want a home server. Because I'm tired of, buying things from iTunes. I want to go back to my old system that I don't want to describe. But it involves a home server and Plex. And...
my second perfectly legal system that I won't bother describing because you all know how that works.
Yes, and I want a Mac Mini because I miss Plex. I miss having the things that I used to do on the NVIDIA Shield, but I want to do from a modern Apple computer with an OS that I understand. And it would also be, a great way to have a backup system for Sylvia's computer, for my computer. It would be, just the home server that I need for entertainment, for backup purposes, for managing shared family stuff. I want a Mac Mini. I told you months ago that I'm in the market for a Mac Mini, but Steven told me don't buy the Mac Mini, and I listen to what Steven says when it comes to Mac stuff. So I'm still waiting, and I'm hoping that Apple will announce one.
It really feels to me that if we make it through this year and there's still no Mac Mini update, like if we get through WWDC, which I agree with you, it'd be awesome for them to do it. In fact, my next hardware pick has to do with processors, and we could talk about that with the Mac Mini. But if we make it through WWDC, we make it through the fall event, we make it to that, sort of Apple saying, hey, we're done for the year. At that point, I believe the Mac Mini's done. Because that's a long time without, even for the Mac Mini, which has been slow historically. It's that just feels like a barrier that would be crossed at that point. But Tim Cook says it's still a product in their lineup, so I guess you got to have some faith. So I'm right there with you, man. I've got a 2010 or a 2011 or something under my TV. It's my entertainment system, like home server thing. And it's getting long in the tooth, even with an SSD. It's doing. Sometimes it forgets it has an HDMI port. Sometimes it doesn't have Bluetooth. Like it's just, it's kind of maybe on its last legs, and I like to replace it. But like you said, there's nothing out there.
All right. So for my hardware pick, I'm gonna pick something to do with processors. No, I'm gonna new iPad Pro hardware is what I'm going for. Because this is the hardware that would make me the most happy, because I love my iPad Pro. I always want more. I would love a new 10.5 with Face ID. I would love a 12.9 with thinner bezels. Like, I would love some new iPad Pro stuff. I would love an iPad Pro that would wake up when I tapped on the screen. All of those things. And so new iPad Pro hardware would make me a very happy chappy indeed.
So we're not going to, I don't think, unless you want to get more specific.
Nope. I've learned from the past not to get specific, because that has destroyed me.
That's where you mess up.
I just wanted to just give some examples of the types of things I would like to see, but just any revision to the iPad Pro will always make me happy, even if they just change some of the internals. Like I'm always going to be happy about that. Just my level of happiness will change on the scale significantly depending on what I get.
I wonder about this one. I know they did it last year, and it had been a while, 18 months, and then, or so before the one before that. And I wonder if they're going to go back to a fall release. I don't know. I would think that if there's, let's just say, an iPad Pro with Face ID coming, that would have leaked by now, especially if they're going to be up for order in any reasonable time frame. And we haven't seen anything from the supply chain, and that alone makes me think that this may be a fall thing. I think it'd be awesome. Like I'm sure I'm like everyone else. Like I try to tap to wake my iPad, it doesn't work. I just stare at 1Password to open, and like, oh right, I gotta touch the button. Like it feels like a device from a different era now that I've had Face ID on my phone for a while. But I just don't know. I just don't know if it's this summer or if it's this fall.
As we get closer and closer, I feel less likely about this. I was pretty confident about this. Now I feel less likely about it. But I still want it.
All right. So I'm going to return to Mac hardware because it's sort of home base, and I figure you guys aren't going to guess it. I would like Apple to move the line to Coffee Lake processors.
Oh, yeah.
And
we all know about those.
I know you guys have been excited about that.
Did you say coffee?
Coffee Lake, yeah.
Coffee Lake.
Coffee what? Coffee Lake?
Coffee Lake. It's a lake of coffee.
What name is that?
It's the current generation of Intel processors.
Oh, they have names?
Yes, they do.
Well, they have multiple names, though. It's confusing, right? Because Coffee Lake processors will still just be called the i9 or whatever, right?
Right, yeah, it's the generation name. Yeah, there's still i5,
but
i7,
they're not
i9,
like public-facing
whatever.
names, though, like KB Lake and stuff.
They're enthusiast-facing names.
Wow.
I mean, Apple has used those names historically when introducing new devices. So like, oh, this using Haswell, it's using Broadwell. So Apple does use
They're
them
not on
occasionally.
product pages, though, right? Like, you never see them.
Okay, right.
Can't they just
I'm
use
just
years?
saying,
Like
I'm
we're
not trying
using-
to prove you wrong. I'm asking questions.
They should just say we're using the 2018 chips and be done with it. It's easier.
What this new class of processor would give Apple is the option to have more cores in their product. So in the class of processor Apple puts in the 13-inch MacBook Pro, there is now a quad-core SKU that Apple could put in there, giving them quad-core 13-inch notebooks. And even more excitingly, in the 15-inch, they could go to 6-core. I don't think that would be the base model. I think Apple would have these at the high end of the range. But having a 6-core MacBook Pro would be pretty baller. Especially, again, developers use these. Lots of content creators use these things. And having more power, especially as we get more and more multi-threaded in our applications, as shown out by the iMac Pro, I think it'd be great. Coffee Lake could also go into Federico's new Mac Mini, even though I'd be surprised if it gets anything that new if it gets updated. But the iMac as well. It could help. It could really help the iMac along. I think that especially the 21-inch iMac, Apple has a tendency to sort of hamper that a little bit to hit those price points. I don't know if this would change that, but it could mean that you could have a 6-core, 27-inch iMac that, and get it a little bit closer to the iMac Pro in terms of multi-threaded power. These processors are already out. Lots of Windows OEMs are shipping PCs with these processors now, and I think it would be great to see Apple get aggressive again about using what Intel has to offer and not waiting until the fall, but doing it now. They're out now, and getting to where they're updating the Macs on a more regular basis would, I think, make a lot of people happy.
Where did these names come from?
It's a lake of coffee, Federico. It's a lake.
Where do these names
full
come
of
from?
coffee.
Why lake? I don't get it.
I don't know.
Well, yeah.
They've used lake for a long time.
Yeah, but like I figured they were naming these after real lakes. But now I don't believe that anymore. I don't believe Coffee Lake is a real place.
Coffee Lake could be a real place. Let's see. Coffee Lake.
It should
Google
be, though.
Maps,
Should be,
Coffee
should be
Lake.
a lake of coffee. I'm up next.
It's in Oregon.
Oh, it
It's a real
is?
place.
Huh.
Coffee Lake?
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
Oh, it looks beautiful.
Is it brown?
I take it has a dusting of cocoa powder all over the top of the lake. I rescind my complaint.
I'm gonna go there. I would love to have air power. Finally, I've been intrigued. I've been intrigued by the idea behind air power since its announcement many
I had
years
this
ago.
idea for Apple to create a wireless inductive charging mat. I'm calling it air power.
If it were coming, why wouldn't it have been yesterday with iOS 11.4?
I don't know. In any shape or form, whether it's a re-announcement because maybe Apple had to change things, or it just sneaks into the store when Apple updates it with the new Mac Mini and all the hardware that we're looking for. I just want AirPower, man. I just want to put my new AirPods and my iPhone 10 and my Apple Watch down on a single little accessory that's on my nightstand, and that charges all my things at once, and I get the fancy battery widget on the lock screen. I just want it. I think it's a great idea. I've been intrigued by the concept of multiple devices, they charge at the same time. So I hope that WWDC is the good time for AirPower finally. It will make me happy. So this is a.
I think that there is a possibility that if they ship any other hardware, this thing will just appear on the store. I also am starting to think at the same time that maybe they're going to wait until there's some more hardware that makes use of it. Or I don't know. I can't work it out. Like, if this is a thing that they're ready to ship at any point, why wouldn't they just put it up as soon as they possibly could? Because I don't care what anyone says. It's so late at this point. Like, I don't care if people are like, they never announced the date. They didn't. Wait, they never announced this in September, expecting to release it in June. That was not a thing that they did, right? They just wouldn't have done it. You just wouldn't do it. Because it's not like there were no Qi chargers, right? If AirPower was the only inductive wireless charging mat that was going to work with the iPhone, then yeah, announce it, right? But they had other ones available to sell, right? They're using the industry standard. Like, they never expected it to be this late, and it is late. And so it boggles my mind. Like, if it was ready on like 2:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday, just put it on the store straight away, right? Like, just don't wait a second more. But we'll see. I am going to stay on my iPad Pro train and ask for new iPad Pro accessories. I'm going to use that as an umbrella term. That's my pick. But I did want to talk about something more specific, which is not my pick. I would like some ergonomically focused iOS accessories. I've been having some problems with my neck. And I'm seeing a doctor. And I think it may be the way that I have used my iPad and just devices in general. I think I've spent way too much time looking down, which I do with my phone all the time anyway, like everybody does, but I'm also doing it a lot of the time with an iPad. I've made some changes. I'm elevating my iPad and using an external keyboard. We'll talk about all of this in more detail on a future episode. But I am being more conscious, and it's making a big difference. I can feel it already. I'm still having problems, but they are getting way better. And I think it's because I'm being more conscious about elevating products and like not spending so much time looking down all the time, right? And this could take many forms, right? The Apple could build a stand of their own, or even if they just like they could introduce some kind of pointing device, right? Which would mean less reaching out and touching things, less need to have the iPad close to you. I don't know what it would be, but I would really like that. But just, I always want new iPad Pro accessories. I always want refinements. I would love a new Apple Pencil, like a brand new, like redesigned Apple Pencil. I would love some good advancement to the smart keyboard. If you're going to change the key switches, just leave it alone. It's fine as it is. I would love to see some stuff, but I would love to see some ergonomically focused ones too.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think there are a lot of people who struggle with that. I mean, you can see there's such a huge market for Mac and PC accessories in this space, right? And it makes sense for Apple to, even if they don't do it themselves, because Apple doesn't offer a keyboard, or really a mouse or a trackpad that cater to those types of uses. Even if they said, hey, you know what, new smart connector, we're going to reboot that program. It's really easy to do now. Like, just something to make that more approachable for other companies even to get into it, I think would be
I
great.
think a lot of what would enable it would be some kind of pointing device support, even if it was just to be able to move text cursors around or whatever. I think that would open the door to a lot of this stuff, because for as long as you still need to be tapping the screen for 100% of everything, you're going to need to have the device within arm's reach all the time, like comfortably. So, Federico, what do you think about all of that?
I think that I would I would love to see Apple make something like the stand that Jason Snell recommended, and that ever since both John and I have bought.
Me too. That's my thing. That's one of the things I'm using.
I feel like that company owes $6. Huge thanks.
It's out of stock or it was at least for a bit. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But yeah, I would love to see. It has always been a worry of mine that just these devices in general, just iOS devices as a whole, like what's it gonna do to us ergonomically? And I think for me at least, I'm starting to see that now. But I'm making changes, so I'm all good. I would love to see Apple maybe do something. Basically a 20-inch. A 25-inch iPad would fix this, right? Because a 25-inch iPad would have to be set up so differently. So maybe they should just do that, and then I'll be happy too. All right, so we're moving into other now, right? This is our last round. So Federico, we'll start with you.
All right, so we're free to pick anything else.
Absolutely anything now.
Okay, and I'm going to go
we're completely
with
open.
something that would make me really, really happy with my Apple Watch, and that would be the Siri Face opened up to third-party developers.
Are you using the Siri Face?
I would love to use it if only it allowed me to see data from third-party apps. I don't use reminders, even though one of my picks was a new reminders app, but that's another topic. I would love to see developers being able to plug data into this watch face for Siri. Apps that use time-based or location-based data, so anything that is a to-do app or some kind of location-based note-taking app, for example, it could end up on the Siri watch face. HomeKit clients, they could end up in there. If you're a developer and you make a HomeKit app with a custom, accessory control, it could be in there. I just wanna use this watch face because I love the idea of proactive suggestions and like a timeline of your day, and you can do stuff with it. I love the idea. I cannot use it because something that I do with my Apple Watch a lot is glance at my task manager, which is Things at the moment. For that, I use a complication on the modular watch face. I would love to use the Siri face because all the other things it does, like music control or even sometimes Apple News, which I used to keep enabled when I was using the Siri face. I want to use it, but it needs third-party access. So I hope that it's coming with WatchOS 5.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I'm going to go with always on screens.
Everywhere?
Either iPhone, Apple Watch, or both.
Okay.
They could both do it. I would like to see either of them get it, both of them get it, however it works. But we have OLED screens that can do this, and we don't have any devices that take advantage of it. And I think that it would make big benefits for both devices. Being able to just see the time all the time on my Apple Watch is something I've always wanted and has been a frustration for me for as long as I've owned one. And I feel like my current system of Do Not Disturb could be greatly improved if my iPhone just ticked with notification badges, like very simple, slight ones without lighting up the whole screen or whatever. I think that would be really great. I would love to see that. I'd love to just see any implementation of it. I also think an always-on iPhone 10 would work really, really nicely with dark mode iPhone 10. I think that they would just transition very nicely between these two things. So that's what I would like.
I had on my other list, the top of the list was any mention of AirPlay 2 or messages in iCloud. So I guess I get a point there.
No, that's not how that works.
I'll stick with the watch theme. I would like to see new watch faces. I know there's a rumor right now that there's one coming. Really, like either several new ones or really breathing new life into the ones that are there.
I don't even think that's a rumor. You can I think I saw if you change the date and time on your phone, you can unlock the Pride watch face now, which is kind of funny. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So new WatchOS faces. The majority of them we've had since the watch was introduced, and it feels stale, and it feels like there's so much you could do there. You know, the Siri face kind of shows what's possible, but like you guys said, there's shortcomings there. But I'd like to see those other more traditional watch faces get updated, give us more options, give us more customization, just breathe some fresh life into that thing.
Yeah, I hope for a lot of changes to it in general, just watchOS in general, to maybe give it a boost in the arm, but we'll wait and see on that one. Who's next? Oh, Federico, have you got a second other pick?
I do. Okay, just let me scroll through my notes.
You got to pick the right one. This is the final one. This is the final pick. I should mention that these are our final scored picks. So you got to go. You got to go for a good one.
It cannot be in any previous category, right? It has to be
I
in
think
other.
it can. Yeah,
Can it be iOS too? Like something else? Are we
yeah,
allowed?
why not?
Yeah,
why not?
yeah,
Go
we're
for
feeling
anything.
generous.
This is called other, right? We've not given it any kind of categorization.
This is how he's going to win right here,
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
Every time you go soft on one of these things,
This
just
is when he sleds in and just picks it
All
up.
right. So,
But again, remember, we all win if one of us wins, right? Because it's
Yes.
happiness. We want each other to be happy.
yes. Okay, so I'm just gonna go for something that I strongly and personally feel that it should be done. There should be an initiative from Apple on iOS to improve and monitor our screen time and our digital health. This is something that I've been bringing up multiple times this year. It's a topic that is really dear to me, that a bunch of companies are also talking about this year. I want to see tools, and whether it's settings or like a dedicated area of iOS where you can go in and see how you're using your devices, see which apps you're using, and just have data, insightful data that you can, use to improve your habits. If you think you're using Facebook too much or Twitter too much, just have data about what you're doing. And alongside that, I would love to see Apple, as part of this initiative, I would love to see Apple offer suggestions or meaningful actions that you can take to change your habits. So whether it's the OS being proactive and helping you curb your screen time, or helping you stay in Facebook only for 30 minutes at a time. I don't know how, but we've seen Google try to tackle this problem with the latest version of Android. And I think Apple is uniquely positioned to do this, because Apple likes to say that they love the fact that entire families use their devices. They have a dedicated webpage called, Families. And of all the companies that should have done this first, Apple should have done this first, not Google. So I hope that this is a bigger topic, and a bunch of people... there's a ton of discussion about it's difficult to reconcile the fact that the same company that is selling you the phone also wants you to use the phone less. I think we tried to talk about this on Connected. I also talked about this on App Stories with John. I think it's still the right thing to do to help people, give them the smartphone to buy, give them the OS, but also give them the tools to have a balanced use of these devices. And so having a feature in iOS that helps me understand how much I use my phone, which apps I use, when I use them, and try to use them less, and that will make me really, really, really happy. So that's my final pick for the Happy-o-meter WWDC 2018 edition.
I think that's a good pick. I think it is a very likely one too. I think this is going to be one of, if not the biggest focus of iOS for this year. Like one of the things that stand on stage, and they're like, we have a bunch of new features, and it's all about digital well-being, or whatever Apple call it, because they won't call it that because Google did. And they'll say, we have these 4 things. And I think it's going to be notifications, parental controls, and do not disturb. And it's going to all go into screen time and digital health. So that's kind of like my overall big like just prediction for WWDC this year. So I think you've picked a really good one, and it would also make me super happy too, because it's something that I would like to have a little bit more control over too in my life. My final pick is going to be a generic emoji face and emoji. Those animals are cute. I want just the yellow face, and then you give me just the yellow face, and I can make any face that I want. I can choose to add things like sunglasses, like basically what Apple tried to do with the face on the Apple Watch, but as an emoji character. That's what I would like.
I forgot about that. It had the hands. Remember the hands were in there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some
Hands,
weird stuff in the early.
and the face.
Would it recognize sunglasses, or would you put the sunglasses on manually in the emoji?
I think you would put the sunglasses on.
Okay.
Like you'd be able to choose a couple of things like nerd glasses or sunglasses, put stars in your eyes or whatever, right? And then make more faces. I think that would be really, really fun. And I know I would use that a lot more than the current emoji.
Okay.
That's good. I think
it's a good one.
I like that. So I've been sitting here looking at my list and kind of torn on where to go. So I'm gonna go with one that I believe I picked last year and didn't get, but it would make me very happy, and that is shared iCloud photo libraries. I have a photo library. My partner has a photo library, and the only way we share things is with AirDrop, because even the shared photo stream down-reses your images. Google's fixed this in Google Photos. There are solutions to this. We have an iCloud family account. Our iCloud accounts are already linked, but there's no way to say I want to share this album with somebody else. And it's time. Like, it's just anyone who has a multi-person household, they all use photos. They all want this, and everyone has their own stupid workaround because Apple doesn't support it. It's time. Shared iCloud photo libraries would make me a very happy man.
Yeah, that was one of my wishes too. So I'm glad that you picked it. I will be happy with you if they do it.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't have any problem with it. Like, it's just, I don't think that me and Adina take pictures of things that particularly need to be shared consistently. Mm-hmm. I am like almost 100% sure that when we have kids, we will want it.
Yes.
But I think like right now in our life, we just don't. Like she doesn't need pictures of my gaming PC in a photo app, right? Like she just doesn't need that, like, and I get for you, Federico, there's probably a lot of pictures of the dogs,
yeah,
right?
we have exactly that.
But we don't have a thing like that. It's like, well, I just take pictures of our house because it's the only thing that we both own together.
Maybe the gaming PC could be that thing. Maybe if you shared photos, she would come to love it.
I think she already does. She loves some of these VR games, man. So... But yeah, I think it would be a great feature. I can totally see the use in it for other people. I know why a lot of my friends want it. It's just not a thing that I would immediately want to use. But I can see how cool it would be. Maybe the three of us could share an iCloud photo library, right? You'd be up for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Great. Federico would have pictures of his dog. Myke would have pictures of PCs he's building. And I would just have pictures of Newtons. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, you have Steven, you have a ton of old Phil Schiller photos for some reason.
I've got a couple. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's all of the pics.
Yes.
That can be added up to our happiness meter. But we all do have extras. So I guess if any of us want to throw out just some of the things that we didn't get to pick, these are non-point scoring, we can do that. I'm just going to throw out two of mine. I want to give two of mine.
Okay.
Keyboard shortcuts for iPad multitasking.
I had that. Yeah.
I would love that. But I think that's not going to be this year. I think that we will get it, but not this year. Uh-huh. The other one is, this is a little bit high concept, but I want Apple to lay out a software release roadmap now. So if they're going to do this thing where they chill a little bit, right, and maybe make things a multiple-year process, I would like them to get on stage at WWDC and say, these are some features we're going to add to iOS over the next year. Some are going to come in September, some are going to come in March, some will come in June. And they just show us all of them now, but they come over like the span of a year. And I think that would be an interesting thing to do. Things are still going to get delayed, but things get delayed already. But it would at least allow Apple to get on stage and show a lot of good stuff, but not feel pressured to ship everything in September. So it would give the balance of keeping like press, media, and fans happy because they get to see a bunch of stuff at WWDC, but doesn't tie them into shipping it all in September.
That's really interesting. Apple used to do that, like years and years ago. They would
even
say,
the iPhone. They had this is where the idea came from, because I was thinking about the iPhone software development roadmap.
well,
Right, that was a thing. No, but I mean that's my thing, right? Like that's the thing. I'm sure they've done it with it in more detail.
Well, I was going to say, I don't even think that event was like, we're doing this over the next year. It was like, oh, we have an SDK. This is where we're going. But
yeah, I mean, it wasn't something they checked in on a lot, but that just popped into my head, and I was like, oh, that's a way they could potentially try and pitch this to the world.
It'd be really interesting. So I'm going to pick one out of the iOS bucket because I feel like anytime I try to do some of my administrative tasks in particular that very often involve files, even with Files app in iOS 11, I still run into frustration points. Or I have, Jason's talked a lot about this. I have audio files on an SD card. I can't do anything with them on my iPad. Like improved Files app with external storage support would really break down sort of the barriers that I run into a lot when trying to do some very specific things on my iPad. That's not for everybody, right? Most people probably aren't pulling things off SD cards that aren't images, but in my workflow for what I do, it would make a big difference, which is why I didn't pick it to be scored, because I don't think it's going to happen, but it would make me happy.
This feels like one of those things that it's not necessarily trivial, but they've already I feel like they've done the hardest part, which is having a piece of hardware required.
Yeah, there's
they
a dongle.
already have that.
Yeah.
Right? Like they make that part already. So it kind of feels like, considering you already have this thing that you sell, why not add this? Because you'll sell more of them.
Yeah. And it's not just like people with me running around with field recorders, but like, if you're going to have external storage support, it means you can plug in a USB drive with a bunch of Pages documents on it. Like it just makes the iPad easier to deal with out in the world, where you don't always have something like AirDrop or Dropbox available to you. Like a physical way to get things on and off the device. Yes, it's not very 21st century, but it's realistic, I think, to the way a lot of people still work. Federico, you sounded upset by that. There was some moaning from Italy.
No.
You're good?
No.
You're good?
No.
You don't think it's heresy?
There's a no. I think it's fair. I'm gonna give you some of the outtakes from my list. Let's see. iOS Siri improvements.
Yes.
Auto playback intents. Type to Siri becomes an official thing. Chained commands, so you can ask multiple things in the same sentence, and multiple languages at once, which is something that Google does really, really well. I would have mentioned a group FaceTime, which is a thing that is still not possible, and also the new Reminders app. I think it needs a new design. Finally, on the Mac, I'm just going to go through this list, I'm sorry. It will make me happy. A dedicated podcasts app, and also Apple News. On watchOS, I want to see a more customizable workout app. I want to control the data points in the Apple Workout like I can with underscores workouts++. And really, really finally, I want to see sleep tracking on the watch and real native watchOS apps that allow developers to use UIKit on the watch. So that's all the things that would make me super happy, but they don't count against our quota for the Happy-o-meter. So we just throw them into the wind, and these are our wishes forever to be forgotten because they don't count. They don't matter. Nothing matters.
Those were all really good. I had a couple of those as well. I mean, FaceTime is like a relic. It's just, it is what it has always been. And I think apps like Podcast and News and Home and those other handful of iOS only apps, I think they can make it to the Mac when Marzipan or Mike's wish of cross-platform apps. It feels like I can just see Apple announcing this, saying, "Oh, we've done it with podcast and news and tips and, you know, some other app. Like, we did it. These are our example projects. Apple likes to lead the way in those things. And so if that's really coming, I would think that they would be hand in hand, but I mean, who knows? But that's all really good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. All right, it's done.
There'll be a PDF of this in the show notes for you to keep up with. I know we will be watching
and an interactive scorecard too.
Yes, and the interactive scorecard. They'll all be in the show notes. You can find those show notes over on the website relay.fm/connected/195. You can also find them in your podcast app of choice. While you're on the website, you can send us an email with feedback, or you can do it on Twitter. And you can find us all there. Myke is IMYKE, and Myke hosts a bunch of great shows on Relay FM. Go check them out. You can find Federico. He's the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net, and you can find him on Twitter as Viticci, Viticci. I write 512pixels.net and host the YouTube channel by the same name, and you can find me as ISMH. We'd like to thank Pingdom, Skillshare, and Smile for supporting this episode of Connected. And until next time, when we are together on stage, say goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Don't forget the energy, everybody. Cheerio.
Adios.